Welcome to the GreatBase Tennis Podcast. I'm Steve Smith along with co-host Dave Anderson, and we're fortunate tonight. Dave's going to introduce a member of his staff that he's really high on, and I've heard a lot about him prior to the guest joining David's staff out in Dallas, Brookhaven Country Club. Go ahead, David. Tell us a little about our guest.
Yeah, well, Coach Jaime, welcome.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Steve. Thank you for the opportunity and looking forward to talking about tennis.
Jaime came aboard, and he's had an immediate impact on the culture. I think you run into some people that have a chronological age, and then seems like Jaime has a lot more life experience accumulated at 36 years old. Jaime?
Yeah, that's right.
36. Yeah, and I think that you're a human being who is wise beyond his years, and your wisdom and your maturity have had an immediate impact on our place, and you've made it a better place overnight because of your approach. So I'm excited you're here tonight and getting to be with Steve, and looking forward to a great podcast.
Oh, thanks, Dave. Jaime, take us back to your beginning days in tennis.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dave, for the kind words. As I always say, I appreciate the opportunity of working with you every day and learning from you. So it's been a lot of fun these past few months at Brookhaven, and hopefully we can continue like this. I think we're on the right track and making the program better. So happy to help. And then about my beginnings in tennis, I'm from Madrid, Spain. I started playing tennis actually quite late for someone that then achieved what I achieved. I started playing at 10 years old, and it just started at my grandma's beach town. We used to go there on vacation, and there was a tennis court there, and I have a twin brother, and we just went down there without really knowing what we were doing. We started, smacking balls, and we asked our dad to sign us up for tennis lessons, and that's how everything got started, really. We loved it though, so everything happened pretty fast, and we, in a matter of 2 years, 3 years, we were already playing every day and playing tournaments and being competitive. So yeah, everything happened pretty fast, and we fell in love with the game of tennis since day number one, I would say.
And your brother has a career in tennis as well. Tell us a little about him.
Yeah, so we are twins. We are actually both high performance coaches right now. He also played, well, I didn't tell you guys, but I played D1 at NC State between 2009 and 2012. I believe that a couple of years later, after I left, you still helped out the program there along Matt Clower.
Yeah.
And then my brother played during those same years at San Diego State. Then we both played together on tour for a number of years, and now we both coach on tour and with high performance juniors as well. So we've had pretty similar paths. It's been fun to share the love and passion for the game with him, and to talk tennis every day and learn from one another. So it's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, 1989, I'm 36 years old. You've been in the States since your college days, or did you go back home?
After I was done with school, I went back home because we both knew that we wanted to play on tour after, and it just seemed a bit easier to manage logistics being in Europe. You can drive to tournaments nearby. We're both from Madrid, which is close to France, Portugal, driving distance to all the tournaments within Spain as well. So it was, I think, the easiest way to try to give it a shot. And also, the tennis culture in Spain is quite strong. So we felt that was our best shot. So that's why we went back. And after we were done with tennis, we also knew that we wanted to come back to the States, as I think the States provide great opportunities if you want to work within tennis. And we decided to come back in 2018. So yeah, right now between college and afterwards, I've been in the States for over 10 years, 11, 12 years now.
In the early days, Jaime, did you and your brother play soccer, football?
Yes, we both played a number of sports growing up. soccer is huge there, so you don't really have a choice. Everyone plays, and we were pretty good at it. But as I said earlier, we fell in love with the game of tennis, and at age 14, 15, we had to choose between football and tennis, and we chose tennis. So that's when we stopped playing football or soccer, European football.
There's so many things to talk about. I mean, you've from junior tennis to playing college tennis to coaching college tennis to coaching top juniors to pros. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jaime, we get to see each other every day, and yet, things are so busy we don't get to communicate as much as we'd probably like. Steve will probably walk through the timeline, and you have a lot of recent time out on the tour doing coaching, and I know you're doing the project currently with Micah. But what has it been like for you dipping your toes kind of into the junior tennis world culturally, and some changes that you might have noticed from when you were a kid in kids? Anything that jumps out at you?
Yeah, honestly, it's been an adjustment for me to work with juniors, because I remember when I used to be a junior, but at the same time, it's been a while. So then I play tennis at a very high level, and then I even work with players at an even higher level. So you take things for granted, and you work on things that then when you go back to the roots and you work with kids, even if they are good players, but junior development is completely different. And I feel that it's taking some adjustment from my end, expectation wise, and also trying to simplify things as much as possible. So it's been an adjustment, definitely. Completely different job than working with an adult and with a professional on tour. Completely different job.
Yeah.
College coaching. You recently spent some time at SMU, correct?
Yes, that was my first full-time job as a coach after I was done playing, and it was a great stepping stone for me. I had a lot of fun, and we worked super hard. Things went well that year, but not as well as we would have liked, and I learned a lot from the girls. I was the women's assistant coach there, and as I said, it takes time to change your mind from a player to a coach, and I made mistakes during that first job, but I also brought good things to the table at the same time. And yeah, one of the biggest lessons was that mm, not necessarily what worked for you is going to work for everybody else. So it took a bit of time to be flexible and adjust to different players, different personalities. And I learned a lot from that year. But when I was at SMU, it was a great stepping stone from playing to coaching for me.
Jaime, what about the pathway about you and your brother making the decision to come to the U.S. for college tennis? Could you go back through that a little bit, that process?
Yeah, so it was a completely different time as right now. There was not much information. There was only a handful of Spanish guys that had come to the States. And the culture within Spain and Europe wasn't that positive towards collegiate tennis. The people, coaches and players used to say that if you came to college, you were done playing tennis, more or less. And there was not as much data as there is right now, and all the examples that we have right now using college as a platform to then play on tour. So it really came from my dad. My dad was, highly educated businessman, and he always said that we were going to go to the States with a scholarship to get a degree and to play tennis. And then after we had that degree, if we wanted to play, then we could do that. So, and I feel that when you are 16, 17, you need that kind of push from your family, because it's a huge step. You're coming to a different country, different continent. You don't speak the language, so you need the encouragement from your family. And in our case, definitely came from our dad. And I 100% think that was the right choice and the right path for us. So
It's interesting. You're 36, so divide that in half. 18 years ago, and you've doubled your life since. What were your first impressions coming over to the States? And was there a chance for you and your brother to go to the same school? Or did you look into that at all?
honestly, at the time we wanted to go to separate schools. Don't ask me why, because now looking back, I think it would have been so much fun playing together side by side. But at the time, we didn't want to do that. I guess when you are that young, you want to have your own identity, and having someone that looks exactly like you and plays the same sport is at the time was a bit overwhelming maybe, and we decided to go separate ways. But I didn't know much about the college system, and honestly, I just had a bunch of coaches reach out. Back then, you would get a phone call or letters in the mail. So completely different as right now, where you are getting Instagram messages every day and Facebook messages and this and that. I went to NC State the year before. They had made the Elite Eight, so they were a really good team. And also, they offered me a full ride. So for my family, that was important because the cost of studying here in America is quite high. So that's how I decided to go to NC State. Honestly, I didn't really know the differences between schools. So in a way, I got lucky because I went to a really nice place and I had an amazing experience. But yeah,
You played for John Choboy, is that right?
yes, I played for John for 4 years. So, and yeah, what years were you there helping out?
Yeah, I'd have to backtrack. Maybe it was 5, 7 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. Maybe the time
Hmm.
the time goes by so fast. Maybe it was longer than that, but I'd have to stop and think about what years. I guess after
I think it
2000.
was 7, 8 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. With
Over there. Yeah.
give us a shout out for some of your teammates. Who did you play with at NC State?
I played, well, I had, nice teammates. None of them tried to play on tour afterwards. There were a couple that tried to play before me, just before I went there. James McGee, a guy from Ireland, he played on all four slams in qualies, and I think he qualified me for US Open once. And after I was done, right now they are doing an incredible job with the program. There is a group of guys playing on tour, Alexis Galarno, from Canada. He played at NC State after me. So I think the culture is getting better, and there is more and more players trying to give it a shot after school, and the program itself. Men and women are both doing really well there.
Tell us about your brother's experience at San Diego State.
It was great. He was he actually went to University of Louisiana first for a year. No, for 2 years. He was there for 2 years, and then after because as I said, the information back then was really, really, there was not much of it. So the coach from there kept calling him, and he decided to go there. And then obviously once he got there, he made a lot of good friends, had a good experience, but he wanted to play at a higher level within collegiate tennis, and so that's why he went to California, and he loved San Diego. He still lives there in Southern California, in Orange County, where he coaches right now. So he fell in love with California, and the weather there, and I think overall was a good stepping stone for him as well. He got to play against the schools. He played Steve Johnson during his crazy run in
Yeah,
college in 2011, 2012, and a
yeah.
bunch of other good schools. Stanford, UCLA, etc. So it was a very good 2 years there for him.
What did you and your brother study as an undergrad?
We both studied business administration just to keep our doors open. We didn't know if we were going to be able to stay here or to go back home. And we were so passionate about tennis. So we knew we wanted to play, but obviously there is life after. And we felt that that was the right choice, just to keep all the doors open. And that's what my dad studied as well. So that came natural, I think. And I learned a lot. So I think we made the right choice.
And then Jaime, after that, you went back to school in Spain. You got a master's degree.
After that, I went home. I played on tour for a number of years, and when I was at my career high, I had a wrist injury, so I had to get 2 surgeries on my wrist, so I couldn't play for 18 months, and that kind of gave me some free time. and to think about everything. And at the time, it was the best for me to try to get my master's. I didn't know what was going to happen with my wrist. So it was becoming clear that I wanted to become a tennis coach, a high performance tennis coach. And that program was provided by the Spanish Olympic Committee. And it was a high performance coaching program. It had a little bit of focus on strength and conditioning, but also the mental side, communications, a bit of everything. And I learned good amount there as well. And as I said, I was injured at the time, so I think I tried to take advantage of those 18 months, and getting that master's degree was great. I got a lot of insights from good coaches from other sports. So yeah, it was. I think it's always good to keep investing in yourself and educating yourself in things you don't know, and there is always things you can improve on. So that was good for me at the time.
No, it's great to hear your story. Go ahead, Dave.
Jaime, why don't you tell us a little bit about your family and your wife and her tennis background, and then your two kiddos?
Yeah, so my wife is born in Bulgaria, moved to Germany when she was 4 years old. She played at SMU here in Dallas years before I coached there. But we met here in Dallas when I was coaching the team. She was working for the business school after she was done and getting her MBA, and that's where we met. And now we have two amazing kiddos. My daughter Adriana is almost 2.5, and we have a baby. His name is Alex. He's almost 6 months old. So yeah, and we made Dallas our home, and I'm super happy here. She does now private equity, so she's not into tennis, or she's not working in tennis, but we still try to hit here and there when she wants. And so yeah, we honestly we met through tennis, so I'm grateful to the sport for that as well.
Oh, that's great. Tell us a little about the Spanish method. I've gone through it a few times. I guess I would say 2.5, once through the USPTA, but then I went the course conducted by Emilio Sanchez in Naples, Florida.
Emilio Sanchez, yeah.
Yeah.
Emilio is a good friend, and yeah, great guy. The Spanish method, I think, is evolving as everywhere else. You need to evolve. If you don't evolve, you don't get better. I think that for many years, during the 2000s or late 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, those years have been amazing. I feel that the number of players we've had at the top of the game is crazy for a small country like us. Obviously, things change. I think the base of Spanish tennis is amazing. Is at the end of the day, tennis is a sport where putting the ball in between the lines on the other side of the net is what makes you win matches. And I think we mastered that, and we developed a system that works. But right now, we're seeing that it needs to evolve, and I think it is, but it's gonna take some years to try to have the same amount of players at the top of the game. That's one of the things that I love about my path, is that I was able to go up there and learn the Spanish way. Let's say the consistency, the forehand dominant, the footwork, having strong legs, getting behind the ball every single time. And then I was able to come here, and then a whole new universe opens up, how to close points at the net, and how to serve better, how to play on fast hard courts. So I try to take the best of both worlds, and make it my own. I'm trying to have a philosophy where I can implement both systems, and have a complete player and a complete mindset.
I would say that Jose Agueras, for at least 10 years or more, was the voice of player development in the USTA. What are your comments on Jose and his background?
I met Jose when I was coaching Mackenzie McDonald. I worked with him between 2020 and end of 2022 alongside our friend Matt Clower. And I met Jose there because he was still a consultant for the USTA. and I talked to him quite a lot. I didn't know him back then because he moved to the US many years ago and I was young at the time, so I never got to meet him in Spain. But I got to know him while I was coaching Mackie, and we had great conversations, obviously great insights. And I learned a lot from him. Obviously, someone that has worked with players that caliber, he knows a lot, and I'm grateful for all the things he taught me at the time and all the conversations we had about Mackie's game, about the game of tennis in general, and about everything. I think he's very, very good.
Let me ask you, Jaime, when you were a young boy, who was your childhood hero in tennis? Who did you really admire, maybe model some things after?
My favorite players growing up were Carlos Moya, number one, probably, and Leighton Hewitt, number two. So I think Moya, he was just so effortless there, and his forehand and serve were huge, and just his forehand. I was in love with his forehand. I think his backhand, I don't know if he got worse throughout his career, but when he was younger, he also had a good backhand, and that fell off a little bit. But I was in love with his forehand and his footwork. And then with Hewitt, it was all about his fight, his mentality on court, how physical he was, and his mindset. He wasn't scared of anybody, and he wasn't the strongest or the tallest guy, but he was dominant for a number of well, not years, but months. He got to number one, great results, and I think I like his demeanor on court. Sometimes he wasn't the nicest, but his character, he was feisty, and I liked him at the time.
David, why don't you tell the listeners when you first saw Leighton Hewitt play at John Newcomb's, how old he was, and having your juniors all watch him, and what you had to say about him at a young age?
Yeah, I mean, it was the old system where we had major zones, and it was the Austin Major Zone, which was one of the stronger tournaments in Texas. There was a boy in our program, Johnny Walker. He was a top 16 and under boy in Texas, really good player in the U.S. even. And he was one of the top seeds there. And the draws were out, and they called the two players, and Johnny went up, and then this skinny little kid went up carrying a big bag and hat on backwards. And nobody really knew him. He was just traveling through visiting John Newcomb Tennis Ranch. And I think he was 12 years old, maybe. But you could just tell by his walk as they were going to the courts. I was just thinking, oh boy, something bad's going to come out of this. And, they got to the UT intramural courts where there's about 50 plus courts. And the minute they started warming up, you could hear this kid moving his feet and breathing. And he didn't miss a ball in warm up. Sure enough, he came out victorious, and I think 12, 18 months later, he beat Agassi in Adelaide in a tune-up tournament at 14. So you could see it at a young age. The guy had special qualities, competitive qualities that a lot of players can copy. And that's a good one to copy when you were a young man.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Hewitt mentality really comes from Australian football. I mean, that's his family's background. But yeah, the story where he beat Agassi was not being impolite. Hewitt, as the story goes, he wasn't wearing matching clothes, and he thought that Agassi thought Hewitt was a ball kid. And he said, "Hey, if you could just do this for me, grab me a towel, grab me some water." And Hewitt did that. He grabbed him some towels, grabbed him some water bottles and a towel, and they, he looked up and he goes, "I'm playing this guy," and then Hewitt ends up winning. I think it's along the same lines. Nadal, I always tell people, it's not like he comes from tennis. He comes from such an amazing football family with one of his uncles being on the World Cup team. But you're born in 86. No, you're born in 89. Nadal was born in 86. When did you realize that Nadal was something special? How old were you, and what were your first impressions?
Rafa was already, I think, top 100 when he was 16. So he was, super fast for him. There was a junior circuit in Spain called Nike Junior Tour, and there was this kid who was winning since he was 12. These tournaments were the most prestigious tournaments at the national level, so he was always ahead of his age, playing against older people. And I was 3 years younger than him, so I never got to share any tournaments with him. But obviously, he became he became huge after that win against Roderick at the Davis Cup final in Sevilla. That's when he took it to another level. I remember at the time that in our team there was several number one players or former number one players. Ferrer was in the team, Moya, and then they decided to give him a chance and to let him play. And I'm sure that some people or almost everyone thought that they were crazy by doing that, but he came up with the goods, and I think the rest is history. So that was his first, or when he became, really, really famous, I would say.
Nadal, amazing. Now, David Ferrer comes to my mind too. And you mentioned Roddick. Roddick had beaten Nadal maybe like 6 months prior to that. And then he was just shocked how much he improved. We lost to him in the Davis Cup final. But my son Connor, he transferred from Florida State to he went to Ohio State, but he looked at Oklahoma, and John Roddick was at the time the coach at Oklahoma. And the tie was between Spain and the U.S. It was played in Austin. And so my son was really wined and dined by John Roddick during that time. And that's where David Ferrer came in, and he won his 2 singles. I believe he won the doubles. He helped steamroll. What are your thoughts on David Ferrer?
David Ferrer is one of my favorite players too. I mean, what he accomplished is the definition of consistency, and he maximized what he had every single day. I mean, and I think his game got better obviously throughout the years, because if he couldn't stay up there for so long. I think he's one of the forgotten ones. When people say how good the top 10 was years ago, and they mentioned Delpo, they mentioned Wawrinka, Dervic, I think people don't talk enough about Ferrer. He got to number 3 in the world and the toughest era, and he was beating a lot of these guys consistently. So, and he has titles in every surface, so it's not on that he could only play on clay. He was doing well on hard courts. He won a grass court tournament, I think, in Hertogenbosch as well in Netherlands. So one of my favorite players.
What I really like about Ferrer is his game's so basic. He really plays the percentages. He's just solid. But I think it's a great story where it took him a while. He was wasn't climbing the rankings as fast as he wanted to, and as the story goes, as I understand it, he wanted to quit, and the father and grandfather said, "Well, no, you got to push a wheelbarrow for 2 weeks." And 10 days later, he said, "This is not for me," and then he became the hardest worker in tennis.
For sure, hardest worker, and funny story. When I was coaching Mackie, I saw him in several tournaments. He wasn't playing anymore, but he was still like every time you would go in the gym, the guy was still working out. And I remember in Geneva, Switzerland, he was helping out Feli Lopez that week and in the back end of his career. And Ferrer was in the gym there, I don't know, 8 a.m. before the day started on the treadmill already running. So the guy was a workhorse. It was pretty amazing what he accomplished. And to add to what you said, completely agreed. He just played the percentages and he was predictable, but he was so fast. Yeah, I just feel that that's what the Spanish system kind of allows you, is to play the percentages, and you are only going to lose to people that are better than you. If he comes close, or you're going to beat a lot of people just because you are playing the percentages and you are so good at what you do. It's a different way of looking at it as the American way, but yeah, you said it right. That Ferrer is the master of that. He was a bit predictable. He kind of remind me Bautista years after. He kind of played like him. But yeah, people that are super consistent and very good in all pillars of the game, technical, tactical, mental, and physical.
Yeah. No, actually, Nadal said that he thought David Ferrer was the best player who never won a major. But another story for the tennis parents listening, as the story goes, may be off, but how I understand it is his father told the coaches, if he's lazy, leave the door open, give him some water, but put him in the ballroom. Keep the drawer ajar, but he's in the dark. Just keep him in there for a little bit, bring him out and say, okay, you want to work hard now. I mean, I just love those backstories. Like, how did someone become so good? And I do think that the Spanish system, I love how the word suffer is brought up all the time. Could you comment on that?
Yeah, I think in some way you gotta enjoy suffering. Tennis, yeah, the way the Spaniards play is physical. It takes a lot of energy, but yeah, I feel that if you wanna play that way, also you gotta love the sport, because if you don't love to work hard, to be out there for so long, it's not gonna be sustainable. So I feel that, and this probably applies to every tennis player. I think one of the first questions that I ask my players now is how do you enjoy playing, or how do you like playing? What's the best version of yourself? Because I feel that tennis, it takes daily sacrifices that it has to come from the heart. So you gotta have an identity that suits your personality and the way you like the game. Otherwise, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, no, it's great words. Great advice. Go ahead, Dave.
Jaime, here you have enough years now in America, and the USTA is launching a big coaching certification kind of to unify the tennis teachers, tennis coaches. Tell us a little bit about how that looks in Spain, where, here in Dallas, somebody can have little or no background other than maybe having played college tennis, and they can go to a park and charge a significant amount of money and make a decent living. But tell us how it differs in Spain, kind of go down a pathway for coaching, and why it may have influenced you and your brother even to come this direction.
Yeah, I think tennis in all Europe is very competitive. There is a lot of coaches. The salary of a tennis coach is not as high, so the playing experience is super valuable. When people are trying to hire a coach, they look into your credentials as a former player or not. So if you want to work with players at the highest level, it's not that easy. You need to, the number of people that can get those jobs is limited for the most part. And then for everybody else, I think right now they are trying to make it more unified and to standardize concepts and the way the game is going. But for many years, it was a matter of experience and process of trial and error, if I'm honest. Like, well, the Spanish coaches work super hard as the Spanish coach, as the Spanish players, and I feel that they know a lot, but it was a lot of process of trial and error. There was not that much education in terms of technique. So people would just outwork you, on a clay court, many hours, a lot of heart, obviously some good things, but I feel that right now is one of the reasons why maybe the Spanish players are not as good, is because now you don't need to work only hard, you also need to work smart. So I feel that right now, yeah, that's changing a little bit. But in terms of credentials, yeah, there was not that many coaching courses, or you would learn on the job more or less. Historically, you would go to a club or, to an academy, I don't know, let's say Emilio's, and then coaches with more experience than you would mentor you, stuff like that. But yeah, I feel that the technical side of things, the technical pillar, has to improve in Spanish tennis a little bit. The other three pillars are very good. The physical side, the mental side, and the tactical.
Jaime, you're a lefty, correct?
Yes.
As a lefty coming up, did that give you a lot of opportunities to practice with better players because they were looking to practice with a lefty?
Honestly, yes and no. You know how it is at the tournament. If someone is playing a lefty, then they are messaging you, hey, do you wanna hit tomorrow? But if they are not, then no one wants to hit with you. So Yeah, it depends, especially people that I used to train with or my brother who I hit with a lot. Obviously, I think it's super beneficial to play with lefties because sooner or later you're going to have to face them. And if you've played with them a lot, then you have an advantage on how to play against one, and especially for the return of serve and patterns from the baseline that happen all the time.
The famous player Stan Smith, he used to say that he thought lefties should have their own circuit. The U.S. Open was won 10 years in a row. It's a trivia question. It was won 10 years in a row by lefties. Vilas, Orantes, Connors, and McEnroe shared that title for 10 years, but all lefties.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Sheldon's the only one in the top 10 now, right? Is that correct? Lefty?
Yes.
I believe he is, yeah.
Yeah, for our listeners, that ball's coming in the opposite way. About 85% of players are right-handed, so any chance you get to practice with lefty is really good.
No, Jaime, are you familiar with the gentleman? I had a chance to sit in a course. He was involved with education in Spain. This was years ago, back when Fed was breaking on the scene. Luis Madero, I believe was his name.
He's very well known. I don't know him personally. He's friends with Emilio, and his work, he has his own coaching certifications and whatnot. I never took one of his, but yeah, he's well known in Spain.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's the program that I went through. He ran that with Emilio.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
No, he spoke a lot about at a young age with the kids as they were going into the sport, going through the sport, the training of connecting the hands or the eyes and the feet and then the hands. Do you remember introductions of that sort or did you kind of just pick it up and feel it out?
Honestly, I learned how to play tennis with an Argentinian coach, and it was two brothers, and they were kind of like just find the court, make the ball in the other side of the net, and we go from there. So it wasn't that specific, but obviously as you go up the ladder and you start to play better tennis, I think the system, especially at the time, a lot of people follow the system of Pato Alvarez. So with the coach at the net, just making you move up and back, bowling back. You were trying to use it was called double rhythm. So you would need to adjust up and back depending on the incoming ball. Hit a lot of balls in a row. So you would develop a huge heart, cardio, good forehand, because most of the balls were like floating balls. So you were hitting forehands from most of the court. So that was a lot of the drills that we did were like that. And obviously the classic ones, million hours hitting balls cross court, to cross one line, super basic. There was nothing fancy, but many hours of working on your craft. And that's the secret of the Spanish players. I feel that in a practice in Spain, the first 45 to at least 45 minutes is baseline with a lot of movement, get your heart rate up, make balls, don't miss, obviously hit quality shots, find depth. That's just the base, the bread and butter of Spanish practice. And then from then on, we build, And I feel that that's a great way, especially for juniors, just to develop a strong base. And then obviously you need a lot more than that right now to make your whole game well-rounded and develop skills that you need if you want to become really good at this. But from a base standpoint, I think it's great.
One thing with the Spanish method that it brought back to American tennis, hand feeding had gone away. Just being right on the same side of the net, tossing balls to a player. Some players are becoming indignant, like, what are you doing on my side of the net? Just go on the other side of the net. You're the coach. You're supposed to just feed me balls. But a couple of comments on the Spanish system. One is I just think there's a lot more common sense if you were to compare it to what typically is happening in the U.S. And I think there's less ego. I think the coaches from one level to the next work with each other. And I think myself in trouble, but a socialistic country versus a capitalistic country, although it's taking place in Spain where programs have become more commercialized. But I'd say throughout tennis, I mean, going through this Spanish method, I thought there was so many positives. But one, I just think of Vic Braden with math. Throughout all of tennis, there was very little tennis math. Where like here's a rationale from a number standpoint. And we put numbers to certainly self-management, stroke production, strategy, stats, and obviously there's numbers for score. But yeah, I think with the eyes, the feet, the hands, I think it's very logical. I never really thought of that as a system, as a method. Okay, first you do have to train the eyes, and then you do have to, footwork's more important, racket work, because you have to be in position. But I think this is something that's interesting, that you go to a college tennis match, you can almost guess who's grown up on red clay. And of course, in Spain, you play on the red clay, correct me if I'm wrong, pretty much year round. I mean, there was more hard courts put in when you had the Olympics. What year were the Olympics in Barcelona?
92. Yes. I'm from Madrid, so on the coast, there is barely any hard courts. Now probably a bit more, but it's only clay in Madrid, which is more centered. There is a lot of hard courts. It gets cold during the winter and super hot during the summer, and there is more hard courts. So I actually grew up on hard court. But again, there is also clay, and as you get older and you start playing at a higher level, you try to play on clay as much as possible. I feel that it helps your game and your fitness so much that when you go and play on hard again, it's so easy. You just need one or two good shots and the point is over. And on clay, you gotta earn the right to step in and have a chance to put the ball away. And if you make the wrong move tactically, that carries over 3 or 4 shots. So you really gotta know what you're doing out there and have a clear identity and know how to build points.
No, it certainly hurts the American kid to be able to, on a hard court, just slap the winner. Pick up the bab a lot and just slap the winner versus working the point. It's really interesting to have been. I've spent a lot of time in Europe, and the matches are longer. The junior tennis matches are. It's like each round is a marathon. In junior tennis in the U.S., a lot of times the early rounds are won quite easily. But the one thing on the reverse, the Spanish X, tossing where the person moves forward diagonally, back diagonally, then you can reverse it. But I like it, and I think that's what you refer to as double rhythm. Is that correct? Where, say, for example, with touch control, someone comes up and hits a volley, and then they go backwards and hit a ground stroke, and you do that with a live ball.
Yes, you can do that from the baseline. You can do that with an approach and a volley. There's so many, or with the basket, so many ways to do it. But yeah, that's it. I also, to add to your point, I think that's one of the reasons why the development of the European players might take longer, in the sense of when you see someone breaking the top 100, they go from 100 to 85, from 85 to 70, from 70 to 50. Okay, Alcaraz and Sinner are outliers, but the way that players get all the way to the top is different than in the US. In the US, you have crazy talents that make huge strides out of the sudden when they're very high on confidence. But the problem is when they lose that confidence, then they don't really know or understand their game, and they don't have anything to fall back on. So then they go from playing amazing tennis for a number of months to then not being able to win matches at all. And that's the difference for me, because they don't really understand their game, or they're just so dependent on confidence. So it's a completely different way of understanding the game and playing the game.
Ball control is so important. I think I first went to Europe in 1981, long time ago. Back in the day, in Europe, a coach would be on the court no more than 6 tennis balls, and they had the skill to teach off the racket. And for forever, American coaches will, one of those ball carts, close to 250 balls per cart. So I think American kids get a little sloppy with You just have one ball to keep in play. It's a great lesson.
Yeah, that's what I try to do at the academy. The kids are warming up with one or two balls, and if you miss, go pick it up. It makes you being more focused and move your feet more and being aware. You don't hit the ball as hard because you don't want to go pick up the ball. So it's only positives, really.
No, I like the kids when they miss. Obviously, not in the match, but in practice, when they miss, they say sorry and they run after the ball. I like the expression, it's not about you. You got to be a good teammate and don't waste the other person's time. Oh, this is great, Jaime. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, well, going back to your earlier comment just a moment ago, Jaime, what I heard you say, and I'll put it in words I use all the time, is that the European players that are breaking through, their ceiling when they break through may not be that high, but their floor is very high. And so their journey is more about adding some elements to their game to improve their ceiling, because their floor is tucked up high enough to where they don't plummet too much. But some of the players that you're referring to on the American end, they have some weaponry where their ceiling is quite high, but their floor is down there a little bit lower too. So there's a little bit more of a roller coaster ride throughout their career. Is that kind of what you were speaking of?
1000%. And there is so many examples of that. I'm not gonna give names, but Americans that are killing it, and then out of the sudden they cannot win a match. And the Italians right now, they are doing an unbelievable job, and you don't hear about them much, but they are slowly climbing. Coboli, you haven't heard from him, and guys 20 in the world. So it's more low profile, as you said, getting your game better, but knowing that your base level is always there for you, even not on your best day. And I feel that, like everything in life, right? Balance is king. It's not one way or the other. It's trying to find the right balance between the two mentalities and trying to make the most out of your game, A
couple weeks ago, well, I do this quite often, but I was running this big 12-hour marathon, sunrise to sunset. In American football, you have the center, you have the quarterback, and you have the wide receiver. So we put groups of three, and the center basically is practicing a tweener. It's a throwing motion between your legs. And the quarterback, an abbreviated throwing motion, the bullet, the down and out, where you put your racket is pretty much in a quarterback position. And then the wide receiver just teaches people to catch the ball. But it's refreshing to try to use other sports. Now we have tennis kids in the U.S. that they haven't played other sports. But one thing I was impressed by with the Spanish system is they kept talking about soccer. Like when you get set for a forehand, you have a very good base, and it's like you're stopping the ball with the inset, your plant foot, and then just defense and not making mistakes. And but I think that's something that's amazing. I've been told by many people, even though the women have won the World Cup, I guess twice now, and so many kids in the U.S. play soccer, but it's not a pickup sport. It's like too organized. But that's been my experience in Europe, where the kids play tennis for several hours. The next thing you know is that there's instantly playing a soccer game. Could you comment on how soccer is very much part of the Spanish mentality in tennis?
Yeah, I feel, as I said earlier, I think everyone knows how to play. Everyone plays growing up. It helps your coordination so much, your change of direction. So I think for tennis, it's an excellent sport to play. Not the only one, but one of them. And yeah, I would recommend every junior to play multiple sports to develop a wide base physically and know how to do different things, not only playing tennis a million hours a day and not doing anything else, because that has an due date and that's gonna catch up to you later on, in my opinion. So, but yeah, and going back to your question, I feel that the world has changed so much. When I was growing up, you would just leave the house and then come back when the sun went down, and you would be playing football with your friends or going to the local tennis club and just spending the afternoon there playing tennis, non-organized, just playing. with all the kids. And now everything has to be with a coach and with a clear set of rules. People don't leave their house if it's not something already organized and established. They stay inside playing video games or watching YouTube or whatever it might be. So I think that that's also made an impact on the development of young people, and not for the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm glad you said that. I tell tennis parents all the time, if your kid is always with a paid professional, whether it's a tennis coach or a fitness coach, it's just not going to work out at a high level. I understand you coach Michael Braswell. That's an amazing family. Could you comment on the Braswell family?
Yeah, I just started working with him recently. It's only been a couple of months, but Micah is a great human being, super nice guy. He played at the University of Texas. He graduated May 2024, was one of the best collegiate players at the time. I believe he won All-Americans his last year. Yeah, and he made a quick transition to the Pro Tour, got to 410 super fast, but unfortunately has had to deal with an injury with a plantar fascia, and we're still trying to get him healthy. He's having trouble being healthy day in and day out and putting in the time in the practice court. So we're trying to get him healthy first of all, and yeah, I'm super happy to be in his team and help him out. I met his dad only over the phone, and also the references I got from him very good, super nice family. Met his brother in Austin at the 25K a couple of weeks ago. Also a great guy. So only positive things to say about him and his family, and hopefully we can achieve great things. That's the goal for 2026.
No, it's great. Actually, so many connections in tennis. You mentioned Matt Clore's name a few times. Ty Braswell was Matt's coach at Florida State way back when. But go ahead, Dave.
No, I was going to talk a little bit. We had Matt Clore on and talking about data and the analytics, and I know, Jaime, that's an exciting area for you. And why don't you just kind of tell us how that's helped you out? And I know you have a passion for it.
The way I use it with players, or I've used it in the past, is obviously you as the coach on tour, one of your main roles is to do the scouting. So you need to watch the opponent, watch film, so watch hours of film, and then those numbers and the data just reinforces or not what you're watching. So I don't use it as a holy grail of just looking at numbers and say this is it, but just kind of to reinforce what you watch on film, or to make you change perspective if it's not what you thought. But yeah, I feel that this changed the game too. It's made it more competitive. And I feel that that's one of the areas where tennis coaches right now have to be very good at, because it's part of the job now, it's a reality. And I love using it with my players to improve yourself, also getting reverse scouting reports on your game to see what other players are seeing when they play you, and obviously to get ready for matches and see where you can hurt opponents, and how to try to communicate that to your player. Of course, they send you so many pages of data, you can't show all of that to players, so you just have to make a summary and show 3 or 4 things, the most important things, and go from there. So the player is already stressed out before they go on course, so you don't want to also make them overthink. So it's a really thin line, and you gotta find the balance between paying too much attention to it and obviously respecting it too.
One thing with Matt's comments on numbers and going forward, I told some players that are in a short period of time, they're going to be on semester break, and to just go listen to that one podcast on, people don't realize how successful they can be when they go to the net. Even if you don't volley that well, I mean, as long as you you can hit high and deep and get the right short ball, and because in today's tennis, no one's coming to the net for the most part in junior tennis, so kids are not very skilled at hitting passing shots. I want to ask you about Mackenzie McDonald, but let me precede the question with his story. So I was helping Matt, I guess, incognito with Mackenzie charting matches and doing some film work. But during COVID, he spent 3 weeks at our place. And we had a bubble before it was a bubble, or before anybody knew what a bubble was.
Mm-hmm.
We had a small facility surrounded with a fence and, 4 tennis courts, a wall. By the time we were done, 4 tennis courts, just tiny, tiny place. But, so he was there during COVID. He only stayed 3 weeks. At that time, his girlfriend, you could join us, but she didn't join us. So he only stayed 3 weeks. So we would have liked to have the opportunity to help him more with his serve. It was so fast. So I said, all right, McDonald, I'll beat you. So we do this drill to a set. He's got to hit a serve. It's got to go in. He only gets one serve. And that's not his forte, but he certainly is such a great player. So he hits a serve. It's got to go 3 feet up the back fence on 1 bounce. And then I crank the ball, Mr. Hobman, Robert Lansdorp, and just feeding the ball with great speed. And he's got to hit the ground strokes and the approach shots and the volleys over the back 9. So you put a rope between the service line and the baseline. I said, come on, McDonald, I'll beat you. I got up 3-love. The kids were watching, and he came back and won. And so that just lets you know he's a very solid player. Players can beat that drill. A solid tennis player can beat that drill over the service line. But again, if you're really stretching it out with the feeds and they've got hit the ball that deep, but that's a Mackenzie McDonald story for us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about working with Mackenzie? Such a great guy.
Yeah, so he was like a PhD for me at the time. I was a very young coach. And just to give you a fun story, my first week with Mackie, we met in Paris the week before we had been talking. So we started working together when tennis resumed after COVID. And we had been talking during the US Open and Cincinnati, which was played the week before US Open, I think same venue. So we had been talking, but we met in Paris the week before the French when the French was played in October because of COVID. And we had a practice week on clay. He went great. And then his first tournament, he's getting into the main draw with a protected ranking because he had been injured. So he was ranked like 250 at the time. And he plays against a qualifier first round. The qualifier was playing for Canada, but he was from Spain. And I had grown up with that guy and I knew I had played him several times in juniors. So anyway, I know his opponent. He gets the win in 4 sets. Great win for him because obviously clay wasn't his best surface. So super happy about it. And then second round, he plays Rafa. So literally my first tournament with Mackie, he plays Rafa and Philippe Chatrier. And yeah, I'm asking to myself, how did I end up here? Before the match, he's warming up, doing his bands for shoulder work, and Rafa is there with Francis Roy, with Carlos Moya, with the physio, with 5 guys there, and I'm like, how did I end up here? What's happening? So super funny. Yeah, I have very good memories of that weekend. And the 2 years that I worked with him, everything went great. As I said, we started when he was 250 coming from injury, and he got to 240 in the world. He finished 2021 top 40 in the race. So that was an unbelievable run those 2 years. And what I did with him wasn't so much technical work because I felt that technically he was a good player. Of course, the forehand is very unique and not the way that I would teach it, but I felt that he was already 25 at the time. So I didn't want to touch his technique, and I approached the job with him, trying to improve his mentality and his tactical awareness. And I think that worked out perfectly. He was very competitive, so he always wanted to win at any game we played, cards, video games, you call it. Yeah, he wanted to win at everything, and he was super competitive. But I felt that he wasn't maximizing his skills tactically, and I tried to give him confidence. And I think he played smarter tennis tactically, and and he started winning a lot of matches. During the 2 years, I feel that he won 14 or 15 matches on red clay when before he had not any success, and since we stopped working together, he hasn't either. So I'm very proud of that fact and all the work that we put in. I spent they were very intense years. I was over 40 weeks out of the year within even practice weeks. So we spent so much time together, and we accomplished great things. Second week of a slam in Australia, final of Washington, ATP 500. As I said, winning 14 matches on clay in 2 year time, qualifying for the French and winning a round there. Then another year, he made the third round of the French. So he played really well, and also we got along well. We were a young team, and we had fun. Obviously, you spend so much time that the relationship changes over time, but super great learning experience for me. Those 2 years, and yeah, I enjoyed it, and from a work standpoint, PhD, I learned so much, and I was able to talk to some of the best coaches in the world, and got to spend a couple of days, with Roger Federer on the practice court. It was amazing. I only have good things to say about those 2 years. Really.
Yeah, I know that Federer, he took a liking to McDonald. He practiced all the time. Go back and tell us a little bit about the match with Rafa. How'd that end up? How'd that go?
He got killed. Yeah, he lost in 3 sets. He tried to underhand him, hit an underhand serve one time, and it didn't go very well for him. He kind of left a short ball that Rafa just put away. But yeah, that year was kind of different because the French is usually played in May, and it's hot there, May, June, and it's hot there. The ball bounces quite high and the court is fast, and Rafa used to love those conditions, and that year was played in October, so it was really cold. The ball wouldn't bounce. They were playing with different balls that were a lot heavier, so the ball wasn't jumping as high. So he wasn't as confident going into the tournament, but as he always does, he finds a way and finds another gear there, and he got the title. So incredible experience. It's something that really struck me was how fast and the player boxes are from the court. Like you were so far, you couldn't talk to the player or anything. They couldn't even see you. He was I didn't expect that. So that was quite interesting too.
No, he's a good guy. I remember we were in Lake Nona for 3 years. I was with Andy Fitzell, and we'd be in the grocery store and say, McDonald's over here. Let me check out. What do you got in your cart? What do you got in your cart? But if I asked him one, I asked him 100 questions. I used to tell him, I said, I think your father should be in charge of the USTA, because his father, obviously his mother had a big part too, but his father, the brother and sister both went to UCLA. The sister went on a gymnastics scholarship. Gymnastics. I think you have that right. Gymnastics, not volleyball. But, two different sports, yeah. two kids at UCLA. We're talking about, I think, Robert Yem, who won Kalamazoo. His name came up, and one of my students lost to him. I said, you go right at his forehand. And Mackenzie goes, he was my sparring partner for 2 years. No, the dad, they were searching. They had him out at Nukes. This is for parents listening. They hired sparring partners, and his father used to pay the sparring partners. He would pay them more money. Say it was, $25 for a set, but if they beat him, it was $35. And that was at Berkeley. Also, too, the South African helped him out. Helped me out.
Wayne Ferrer.
Yeah, Wayne Ferrer. I mean, Wayne Ferrer really helped out.
Yeah.
Francis Tiafoe by just getting him off the cell phone. That was amazing. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, one of the that's great stories there, Jaime. By the way, interesting, stat that Matt threw out in his communication with us about size and all of that. But what is your opinion? Because to me, speed is speed, and you take I know that the game has gone vertically a little bit with the size of the players, but there still seems to be a sweet spot when you take Federer, Rafa, Alcaraz. They're not exceptionally tall people. They're not short. But what do you think? What do you think the future of tennis holds? The land of the giants are still in that kind of 6'1", 6'2" range with phenomenal foot speed?
That's a great question. I think in every other sport, the height of players is just getting big. The size of players is just getting bigger and bigger. And if you ask me in a few years, I think it's gonna keep going that way, because back in the day, you were playing against someone really tall, you knew that they couldn't move. And now you see players that are literally giants and they move well. And obviously they have the weapon of their serve. So it's hard to tell. But as you say, I mean, at the end of the day, skill is skill. And the best players, Novak, Rafa, Roger, now Yannick and Carlos, they are not the tallest guys. So at the end of the day, skill is skill. And those guys will still find a way to dominate. But for the most part, I think, size matters, and the game is going into that direction. And with the technology, also the strengths, I think they've made a huge difference. How you can manipulate the ball. That's why you see people returning that far back with the rackets and the strings. Back in the day, I'm sure that was impossible. You just couldn't make the ball travel that far. And also obviously the fitness and the strength and conditioning job that the players go through every day, that's super demanding, and that changes the game. Is playing tennis for those guys is literally the easiest part of their day. They are always on the table or doing gym, doing intervals, running, sprinting, you call it. So I feel that that's been one of the reasons why the game has evolved so much, and it's going to continue going that way, because you see that in every sport, not only in tennis, in soccer and basketball, in every sport.
I think the small person, someone comes to my mind is the doubles player years ago. I mean, he was good enough to get out to the semis at Wimbledon, Todd Woodbridge. You just have to have great technique. I mean, certainly if someone is smaller, someone's even like, say, 5'8", like a David Ferrer, parents listening, is that you just need to go much slower and really have a really, really solid technical base. Because really the game from the service line in, I mean, people just, it's like Roger Federer, I say it all the time. He was quoted as saying, "It's frightening how low the level players at Wimbledon. I know that less than 2% of the time my players are coming in behind the serve." I'm working with some lesser players. There's on a girl who's just absolutely has no forehand. And I said, we're just having hit a side spin forehand. I said, just push the ball back. I said, get it back deep and centered. I said, there's a very good chance that you'll play the entire season and you won't play one person who comes to the net. If your shot ends up short, they'll run around and try to, rip a backhand or rip a forehand with an extreme grip. But yeah, I think that the smaller person will certainly have to do a much better job with learning the game and learning the game thoroughly. Here's a question for you. With your kids, from a parenting standpoint, I guess you could elaborate. They're so young now, but thinking down the road, one thing as an older person, I'd say many times now, I mean, on the line, I'm the oldest person. A lot of times I'm in a room, I'm the oldest person. The way the brain works is your kids could be fluent in 3 languages. And the brain is so sophisticated. And, I think in learning other sports early on, I think you just have to learn from people in the past. I mean, starting kids with gymnastics. And I think there needs to be a delay on tennis, and people really should play other sports. And then the early years just have great, great technique. But what are your thoughts on parenting down the road for you and your wife?
100%. I feel that my daughter is only 2, so still, long ways to go, but she's already going to gymnastics, just, going through courses of different motor skills, jumping, throwing, and I feel that that's the most important thing for early age, just develop motor skills. And once you have that, as you said, develop great technique. you are 13 or so, 13, 14, and after you just have to let time run its course. Um, and yeah, I was actually talking to my wife today, and I asked her how she managed. Her father was or is a tennis coach, and how she managed her relationship at home with her coach, who was her father. So she gave me great insights, and that's something that I wanna really learn because yeah, I want to separate those two things. And of course, I would love to, if they want to play tennis, to work with them and teach them. But the most important thing is to be a good dad, right? So gotta really learn how to separate those two things and make sure that they're good people above everything. So yeah, luckily my brother is a coach, so if he wants to coach him, he is more than welcome to. And I already have rackets and balls laying around the house. Yeah, and she doesn't pay much attention to them just yet, but hopefully soon she will, and it will be up to her. If they want to play, great, and if they don't, just choose another sport, but take it seriously. I don't, one or two things, and master them.
Just today, yesterday actually, I was talking to a gal who she's coaching, and she had an amazing career as an NCAA champion, and she just mentioned this one player, and she said, and this is one thing that you and your wife have going for you is two athletes. Two athletes bringing up an athlete. The expression is they're going to get it. Where for people listening, parents, just have to ask yourself. I think the macho male ego. A lot of men, the older they get, the better they were, but to have been an athlete and been really seriously dedicated to a sport for a long period of time, gone down the road, I think you really, it doesn't have to be tennis, but you just have to know jackocracy. You just have to know sports. It's no easy feat to become a great tennis player, a great athlete. Yeah, let's wind this thing down. Really appreciate your time, Jaime, but go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, Jaime, I'll see you bright and early.
How early, guys?
I mean, early.
And it's cold, right?
I get there. Yeah, it's cold. It's going to be cold tomorrow, but yeah, we're lucky with the covered building. So
Dave gets there earlier than me. He gets there at 6. I get there at 7. So
yeah, but I can't tell you how much of a pleasure it's been to have you on here tonight, and I got to know a few extra things about you that I was unaware of, and I know that anybody listening is going to take away a lot from your stories, your wisdom, and what a treat it's been. So thank you.
You're so young. You've done so many things already in your young life. Go ahead.
No, thank you for the opportunity, and yeah, I think what you guys are doing is great. Just giving the opportunity to learn the game of tennis. Amateurs, people from a very young age, competitive players, to everyone really that wants to get into the game of tennis, and you are developing a great base, a very solid base for people. So I think you're doing an incredible job. So congrats on that, and keep it up.
No, thanks. I'll tell you a story. My telephone, it's really fun. I have all these, videos or just a text message sent, and a young girl, her dad has been coaching her, and it started with Andy Fitzell making a video, and I mean, they've come to visit me many, many times, and so she wins this, level 1 junior tournament. She's moved into the top 10 in the country, and so I just have a photo of her and the tournament official, and she's as tall as a tournament official. So my text was, "Congratulations," and I hope the referee is 6'2". And I got the comment back that referees on the shorter side, but no, we need to try to have people that we're training know that we're connected to people who have your type of background as well, and we're open to learning. We're open to get ideas from the outside, and I think that's why it's great that someone with your background, what you bring to a very accomplished program out at Brookhaven. But guys, I really appreciate it. It's late. I won't tell anybody how late it is because you're going to have to get up in a few hours and be on the court. But no, thanks for being part of the GreatBase Tennis Podcast. And Jaime, I've never met you in person. I certainly heard so many great things about you through Matt Clore and now Dave Anderson. And now our listeners have had the opportunity to hear your parts of your story. But thank you, guys.
Yeah, looking forward to meeting you in person one day, Steve. And yeah, in the meantime, I'll keep learning every day from Coach Dave.
Yeah, I got to come to Brookhaven and get one of those pink hoodies. I don't have any clothes that are pink, but I'm always told if a man wears pink, they have confidence. So I got to get one of those pink hoodies. But
we can get you one.
Yeah. No, actually, the girl from Sierra Barry, I haven't been in Brookhaven since all the renovations. I got to come out and check it out. She said she was there practicing the last few days.
Yeah, she's a good kid.
Yeah, she's got my speed. She was really slow till she met me. Now she's fast. No one laughs at that joke.
I don't think Jaime knew if you were serious or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, we'll do it again.
Yeah, sounds good, guys.
Yeah.
All for the betterment of tennis. Thanks again.
Thank you, guys.
As we say, adios amigos. Thanks.